looking at their schedule, I I
It's a tough
feel
one.
I feel like it's tough, but then I also feel like that is not at the same time. Like I feel like it could be very favorable depending on what the parity of the Big Ten is going to be this year, right? And anybody that knows me knows how big of a fan of 𝗕𝘂𝘂𝘀𝗂𝘀 that I am. So I knew that he was probably. I was one of the only people last year that was saying that look out, 𝗕𝘂𝘂𝘀𝘂𝘀 may come in the middle of the season and take Miller Moss's job if he slips up. And guess what happened? Absolutely did. I loved him at UNLV. Coming over, he seemed more of what Lincoln Riley was looking for, anyways, in the type of quarterback that he is. I mean, big arm, able to make plays with his feet, and we've seen that with Kyler and Baker and Jalen and Caleb. That's the pedigree of God that he wants. Not the fact that Miller couldn't do that, but obviously you're gonna go with the guy that's the big. I mean, he's bigger than him. He's faster. He's got a big arm. We've already said all the intangibles. So, but now he's coming into his second official year with USC, taking the team from week one on. Hopefully, he doesn't get replaced by bad performance. But this is officially 𝗕𝘂𝘂𝘂𝘀𝘂𝘂𝘂's team to either lead or to either lose the job to somebody else, because Lincoln will pull the plug on you really, really quickly if he feels like that things are not going the way that they should. Some key departures, obviously Woody Marks, lost him to the draft. Deuce Robinson, lost him to Florida State. Kyron Hudson, you lost him to Penn State, right?
Yep.
And, a couple other pieces. Bear Alexander goes off to Oregon, right? Goes off to Oregon. So you have that. But then you bring in one of our guys that friend of the channel, follows us on Twitter. Notice that I was talking about him very highly at the middle of the season. Again, I watch at night when this group of 5 games that are happening. I tend to watch them late at night. And one of the ones that we saw at the beginning of the season from week 0, right, was New Mexico with Devin Dampier and Luke Wysong and Eli Sanders, and they get Eli Sanders that comes in, right? So now they are going to be leaning on Mekhi Lemon, which he's getting a ton of hype. A lot of people are calling him Amon-Ra St. Brown 2.0. Jacoby Lane, of course, Walker Lyons. So before we get into the schedule, what's kind of like your aspect on the way that they've changed their team around this offseason, and then most importantly their departures, because I think their wide receiver departures are the ones that is like the clear hole that has happened here, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, they lost some talented players, especially at receiver, like you mentioned, with Kyron Hudson, and you also lost
Deuce
Zachariah
Robinson.
Branch,
Yeah,
to
Zachariah
Georgia,
Branch too.
who's an electric return man. Where arguably he did most of his damage, right? Being a former 5-star, you just want to get the ball in his hands. But when you really look at it, they've retained their top 2 receivers in Lemon and Lane. So how much was the receiving core really hurt, right? You lose some key depth and talented players, absolutely. But when you return your top 2 receivers, no matter who you are, right? No matter what team, that's usually a good sign, especially when they have as high of a ceiling as they do. Tight end Lake McCree is back. He's a kid from Austin who's very talented, and you go out there and not only do you get Eli Sanders for your running back room, but just so I get his name correct, it's Waymond. I believe it's Waymond Jordan. He's a JUCO pickup, and as I was doing some research, I'm like, this kid can play, right? I mean, he was supposed to be at his community college or his junior college. He was supposed to be like third or fourth on the depth chart, and then slowly, he established himself as the top dog, won some awards this past season, and earned himself a move to USC. But between he and Eli Sanders, I mean, that's a very good 1-2 punch to replace the departure of Woody Marks. He ends up leaving, and I'd say that USC has done a good job offensively at bringing in key players. But I will say too that I am worried about the passing game still. While they return, their top two receivers, I really do think that USC has ways to go just in terms of their actual output. They have talented receivers, they have talented players, but for me, the output hasn't been there. And I really do need them to step up if I want to take them seriously as a solid team in the Big Ten. I mean, coming off of a 7-6 season, that's not where you want to be, right? If you're a team like USC. So I like some of the individual players, right? The Jimmys and the Joes. I think that USC has done a good job on offense. I still need improvements, and the defense I'm still a little bit uncertain of, even though I do think that we saw some good improvements on that side of the football compared to 2023. So I still think that USC in general is kind of in retooling mode as they're getting used to this Big Ten slate. But I think that they can play spoiler for a lot of the top dogs. You look at their schedule here, and I'm not going to say that they're going to do all that great, but I think that they can. They're going to be a lot of teams' trap games. That's what I'll say. Thank you, Torque. I appreciate it.
My man said Torque's looking, or Khalid's looking snazzy today. All right. Well, without further ado, man, let's and here Chewy comes in with the the 199, man. Appreciate you, Chewy. Thanks a lot for that. He said Fresno State's going undefeated. Well, I don't know. Well, we're not doing any group of 5 schools, but maybe we'll have to throw one in there just for Chewy, man. We might have to do the Fresno State preview for him. So but we're doing mostly Power 4 schools as far as our previews are concerned. But maybe we might do a special episode for you. Might throw one in there. But I highly doubt that, sir. They lost. I know your boy Magdalena is not there anymore, and losing Mikey Keene.
And Malik Sherrod.
Yes. Well, let's get down to it, man. Missouri State. What a tough game to come into your first year at FBS play.
Especially with it being in the Coliseum.
Yeah,
that's a nice little wake-up call for Missouri State. A good litmus test, see how you can improve. And, I mean, look, I see USC winning this game, but could you imagine the scenes if Missouri State won?
Oh.
Be crazy.
The rushing of the field by just people that want to see USC fans get upset. People are going to get arrested. They're going to get arrested on USC's field for jumping the gates, man. But nah, Missouri State, welcome to FBS football. Welcome to the Coliseum. Welcome to getting smacked around by like 50-plus points. I think this is where these type of games starting off so early. This is, and even the next game with Georgia Southern. But this is the game where you could pad your stats for sure. I think Eli Sanders is going to have an incredible day against Missouri State. But I can honestly see like Jaden Maiava maybe throwing for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Eli Sanders getting like $140 and 2 touchdowns, and then coming out the game after they've gone up 5 scores at halftime, right? It's the equivalent of playing an FCS school still to this point, until they get a good recruiting foot under themselves. Georgia Southern, I mean, we can count this one as a W as well, right? Like, yeah. Georgia Southern has known to be a team that can come to places they've been playing the Big Ten. They've had a pretty healthy schedule over the last couple of years, but they've been known to put up a fight. But I think with the way that things need to go for USC, this is an absolute showstopper for them right now. Starting off their schedule this early, I think it's safe enough to put another W in that column, right?
Yeah.
So we're feeling pretty good. USC's beat up on some teams.
Hmm.
They're having some league leaders in stats the first 2 weeks. They're feeling really good about their team, but then they come against Purdue with Barry Odom, and it's very first year with them, and Purdue's ready to rock and roll, man. I think the culture there is going to completely change from the losing mindset that they have. I think this game is close in the first half, and then USC starts taking the ball away from them in the second half, and then just starts rolling. And telling Barry Odom, welcome to the Big Ten, your first year, but you just don't have the weapons to compete with what we have right now. So, what say you, sir?
Look, with it being in West Lafayette, Purdue has the home field advantage, and they were able to retain key quarterback Ryan Brown, who's going to be a redshirt sophomore,
Who
who
had some
spent
pretty interesting
he did
times.
he was able to keep Purdue in it in overtime, actually, against Illinois, their rival, when he got playing time. But look, I don't think that Purdue and Barry Odom are quite ready yet for USC. And despite the home field advantage, I do think that Lincoln Riley is going to have the boys ready for Purdue. And I'm not expecting too much from the Boilermakers this season quite yet. USC, I think, is going to have a somewhat handy victory, right? I'm not going to say a blowout, but it's going to be pretty clear that USC is the better team.
What's funny is Charles Ross, who was a wide receiver at USC, is on Purdue. And then the guy that can't seem to get himself out of trouble in Nitro Tuggle is their wide receiver. But I just think what we're going to see up front from USC in this game is going to be a very physical matchup. And with them losing Bear Alexander, they're really going to be tested on their defensive line, because Purdue has pretty much revamped their whole offensive line this offseason too in the transfer portal. So it will be very interesting to see, but I think it's safe enough to say that this is also a W for USC right
Yeah.
here, starting off with a pretty good 3-0. And honestly, at this point, I would love a schedule like this when I really look at it, because it's like each team is like a step up from the last team, right? Like you got the Missouri States, and then you go a little bit up, you play the Group of Five school. That's a true Group of Five school until Missouri proves otherwise. And then you take another step up in like a low-level Power Four school that's trying to get their legs underneath them. And then here's another step up for them. Jonathan Smith in his second year with Michigan, bringing Adam Childs back, who was this guy that came over from Oregon State with him, who is somebody that he really believed in, last year, which everybody was surprised at that. And so, you have Elijah Tolliver that came over from Sacramento State, which Sacramento State has known to have pretty good players that have entered the transfer portal and came over. But he didn't really utilize the portal a lot on the defense. Had a couple guys that came over on the offensive line. Amari Kelly came over from Middle Tennessee, who was a sub 900 receiving yard receiver for Michigan. So he's putting the pieces in the right places, I'm thinking. But still, I think, coming all the way to the Coliseum for Michigan in week 4, I think still USC gets a win off of them. Not as scary as their first half struggles against Purdue, but I think a steady climb in this game, quarter after quarter after quarter. They take this one away from Michigan State as well.
Yeah, I think that USC will win in the end in this one too, but I will say though, I think that Michigan State's going to give them a run for their money, and if this game were in East Lansing, I think I would rock with Michigan State here.
Mm.
I'm a believer in Aiden Childs and the way that he's improved just through game time. Right, Jonathan Smith going into yet another year at Michigan State, but really the explosiveness of this offense for Michigan State, I think it's going to pose a lot of trouble for teams, especially with Nick Marsh lining up out wide with Childs throwing to him. I tend to think that this is going to be a higher scoring game with a lot of explosive plays for both teams, but I do think that in the end USC will I think that they'll prevail in the end, but this is one where I think these two teams are gonna give each other all they can handle,
Yeah.
which is not going to bode well for USC in their next matchup, which I think will be very, very trying.
Yeah, and so they move into their week 5 matchup without a break, right before a bye week, have prepared themselves for as much as that they can prepare for in their first 4 weeks by taking, it's like walking up a staircase, right? Like each step is getting a little harder and harder and harder to get up on. And now you go to Illinois, which I know you're very high on the Fighting Illini this year,
Yeah.
and I'm not such a believer. So I'll let you take this one to preview us into this game.
Sure.
They got to pay him in champagne.
Oh, yeah. I mean, first of all, Illinois is returning 19 total starters on both sides of the football, which in general, especially when you had a very successful team the year before, is a great indicator of success. Now, there's outliers here and there, like Oklahoma State last year. They returned 19 starters and had a Doak Walker Award winner. And last year, they didn't win a single game in the Big 12. I don't think that Illinois is going to have that type of season, especially with how potent their offense has been under Luke Altmaier. With it being in Urbana-Champaign instead of Los Angeles, I think that this could be a rout for Illinois. I don't see USC having the defensive prowess to be able to handle all that Illinois can throw at them. I recognize, you lose Pat Bryant, but when you return everyone on that offensive line, your entire backfield, right? Caden Fegan, and some of those guys, Illinois is going to be a very physical team, and on defense, right? They're headlined by 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗶𝗲𝘀𝗀, who's like an edge rusher who's very well built, and I think that he's gonna give Jayden Maiava a hard time back there in the pocket. I just think that Illinois is very well built to succeed this year. Beyond this year, will Brett Bielema actually be able to carry this momentum into future seasons? That's probably not, but that's besides the point. This year, Illinois is poised to build off of the success they had last year. If you remember, they had a big win in the Cheez-Its Bowl over South Carolina, a team who we all think very highly of, who had a lot of NFL guys on that defense. And Illinois, they not only gave them all they could handle, but they ended up winning. So I think when it comes to playing USC this year, I think Illinois is going to – I think that they're going to have a very easy time disposing of USC here. And I think that they could win by close to 20 points.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a little differently. I think just with the schedule and how it has come out, I think USC could squeak by this one if all the cards are on the table. I'm not the biggest believer of Luke Altmaier. Like, I think I love Brett Bielema. I love everything that he's doing there. Losing Pat Bryant, losing a couple other weapons. Their tight end room has been decimated the last couple of years as well. And, for me, I just feel as though that I think Luke Altmaier is going to really show his true cards in this year. But I'm not enough of a believer of USC can come in and win this game as I'm talking it up to be. I'm just thinking like they have they're stepping up to the plate and playing a big team. Can we consider Illinois to be a big team at this point in time? I think we can. I think they've showed that every single year that they've been a tough team to play, especially at their house every single year. So, but I think USC can win the game, but I'm not confident in that. So what we're going to do is we're going to rock out with the L on this one because I think it's probably the safe. If I was a betting man, I'm probably not putting all my chips in that USC would win this one. I'd probably go with whatever the upset pick would be this week for Illinois. Now, the question is is USC a ranked team at this point in time?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they start the season ranked, and I don't think wins over Purdue and Michigan State is enough to make them ranked, even at 4-0. Okay. And if they are, I could see it, right? But I think if they're ranked, I think they're ranked no higher than 20th.
Yeah. So they hit a much needed bye week after kind of going through a game after game after game for playing 5 or 6 weeks of football in college, especially playing one team and gets harder the next week and gets harder the next week and gets harder the next week. And then pretty much playing one home, one away, one home, one away could take a toll on your team. So they're going to take an L in Champaign, going up bye week. And then Michigan comes to their house and plays them. Now, this is all dependent on how good Bryce Underwood is actually going to be. I think you share the same sentiment, right?
No, I don't think it's going to come down to Bryce Underwood, frankly. I mean, Michigan's just predicated on the running game and bringing in Justice Haynes. They're always going to have a good offensive line. I mean, having an elite or potentially elite quarterback, if Bryce Underwood plays like how some people think he will, maybe not me, but how some people think he will, you'll have.
So we share that. Like, I don't know.
I mean, look,
I think he's okay.
He's a true freshman. He's a true freshman with high end physical traits, but I don't think he's as polished as you want to see from a Big Ten quarterback quite yet. But for me, Michigan, I think that Michigan's going to try to bully USC, and I think it's going to work. Again, I don't think that USC's defensive line is at the place it needs to be to consistently stop a punishing running game like Michigan has. But I do think it's going to be a pretty solid game. I mean, Michigan, they lost a handful of guys on that defense, right? And while I think that they've recruited well lately, I think that USC could play spoiler here. I tend to lean towards Michigan, but there's absolutely a way that USC could win this game. And especially because it's not in the big house, right? So
yeah.
I tend to lean Michigan here because of their running game. I don't think that too much is going to be put on Bryce Underwood's shoulders. But I mean, if you can force him into some freshman mistakes, USC could easily steal a game here.
I think USC comes out off of the bye week and they understand what type of team that they have. And I think the opposite. I agree with you. I think their defense got decimated. Colston Loveland is a bigger loss than what people realize. Colston Loveland being there now with Bryce Underwood would do Bryce Underwood more good than Marlon Klein is going to do for them, in my opinion. I don't know what we have in Marlon Klein yet. That whole receiving core is pretty much brand new except for Frederick Moore. Their offensive line is still there, like you said. I mean, the one thing that they're going to do with Sherrod Moore is recruit top 3 guys in every single year in the offensive line category. But even with that being said, I don't know why this says Sora. I'm gonna have to get that changed. Hold on.
I didn't even notice that.
That's weird. Hold on. Let me change this around real quick. Even with that being said, man, I think USC squeaks this one out. I think this is game of the week, to be honest, as far as like, you remember the Georgia Tech game last year where it just came down to 8 overtimes. We're not going to ever see that again because of the new overtime rules, but
I mean, that was with the new overtime rules.
That was with the new overtime rules? Yeah, it was. You're right.
The overtime rules were in effect this last season.
You're right, because Haynes King could have. We were wondering why they didn't run it with Haynes King more. They kept attempting to give it to the running back and passing in the back of the end zone, and it didn't work. When he was sensational on the ground that game, you're absolutely correct. So we could see. I don't think we're going to see 8 overtimes, but I think this game could go into overtime. And I think Jaden Mayava or Eli Sanders comes out with some type of magic, and boom, there goes a win for win for USC on that one. So, are you?
I could see it.
You can see it. Okay, so we kind of split.
Yeah,
there.
like I said, like I do think that Michigan's going to win the game, but you could easily chop this up to being a win for USC. I don't think that I don't think that Michigan has proven this past season that I can trust them to dispose of the opponents they should. I think that USC could pose some problems for them, but I do tend to think Michigan will win.
Agreed. All right, we're gonna have to move on the other side of the bracket here. Notre Dame. This is an L. I think that this is an L. Let's see. If Marcus Freeman is still their coach, coming off a national championship win, he doesn't bring in a lot from the transfer portal. Hopefully they use Jaden Greathouse and Jordan Faison more. Offensive line is still there. CJ Carr is now going to be their starter, who was there last year. And then probably we talk about running back tandems, and they always bring up the Penn State guys. But can we give Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price some love here? We know how good they are, but I don't think the country's talking about how good of a 1-2 punch that they actually are. I'm sorry, Small Munden, you got mad when I posted Jadarian Price putting you on your ass. But it just is what it is, sir. He's very, very good. And Jeremiah Love, I think you were the one that stated that if he has a Ashton Jeanty type year, don't be surprised.
Yeah.
And so I think USC takes a big L here, and they got to go all the way to Notre Dame and play them there as well. Again, a rivalry matchup, but it's not going to look that much of a rivalry in this game to me. I think they're going to just run down their throats. I don't think USC has the firepower up front on that defensive line to even compete with what they're about to go through.
I will say, I think that it will be Notre Dame opens the season with two very difficult games. They play at Miami, have a bye week, then host A&M. Those are, again, two tough games at this time in the season, right? I think that they're going to have been able to work out, any of the problems they find themselves dealing with, similar to what they had last year. After that loss to Northern Illinois, they were able to really regroup, gather, and look like the best team in football the rest of the way through the regular season. But hosting USC, and the funny thing is, I don't even know if Faison's going to be wide receiver 2 here. Jaden Greathouse, of course, he's probably going to be your top guy. But you bring in a guy like Malachi Fields from Virginia, and even Pauling from Wisconsin, two guys who I believe led their team in targets before transferring to Notre Dame. And so having so many guys coming into this wide receiver room, a group that is generally over the last few years been viewed as a weakness for Notre Dame, I think is really, really big for them as they have to make a transition at quarterback with CJ Carr. So, they lost a handful of very key pieces, but when you bring back both Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, this Notre Dame team is going to be ready to rock and roll, and I think that they could obliterate USC, quite frankly. At least as things stand now, right? If USC's defense is looking better than we think they are going to be at this point, then sure, USC could give them trouble, but at this current point in time, even if CJ Carr is kind of wobbly, I think Notre Dame takes the cake.
Yeah, rely on that running game, right? Like you have you have arguably the best in the country.
And Greathouse is so good after the catch. You just have to get the ball in his hands and let him do the rest.
Yeah, he doesn't get enough love for how good that he is. Now, you already know my runner-up in the Big Ten this year is Nebraska. I took a big swing, but I just look. Not only did I go back and watch the film on Dane Key that I posted on Twitter not that long ago, some of my favorite clips from him at Kentucky, I just think year 3 in Matt Rule's system, he tends to turn things around. And I know we hate basing things off of history, but when history keeps repeating itself, it's kind of like Yeah, it's hard to disagree with how good that he can be. And again, I look at that Ohio State game last year, right? I think all of us did, and they had them up against the ropes for 3/4 of that game. And so, with at week 10, when we're getting to the meat and potatoes of the schedules, and no, Nebraska can't lose a game at this point in time with the momentum that they have, and you got to go and play in Memorial Stadium, and this is most likely going to be a night game, to be honest. Coming off of a bye week, this is going to be a night game there, which is kind of a nightmare to play in. I think Nebraska beats them. I don't want to say it's a bad beating, but when you're coming off a tough game again, well, this is the road that they have that USC has to travel. Coming off a beating or a close game against Illinois, then a bye, then coming off a close one against Michigan, then go to Notre Dame, lose, have a bye week, and then go to Nebraska. This stretch of games is not being talked about enough for USC. This is going to be tough. I think they take an L, and I think Nebraska squeaks by, and Dylan Raiola really has probably his Heisman moment in this game.
Yeah, I'm not as high on Raiola quite yet. He certainly has all the potential in the world, but last year he did look like a freshman who showed plenty of potential.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this game, especially with how it's clear that with the way this roster is built for Nebraska, that they really are focusing on the passing game with Raiola, surrounding him with receivers. And the running game, losing Dante Dowdle to the portal. I believe he went to Kentucky, actually, so kind of flip-flopping with Dane Key.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to discount like Emmett Johnson and the impact that this running game can have, but it does appear with some of the moves they've made that they are really hinging on Raiola taking that next step forward. I think he does take a step. I think that Nebraska will be potentially, they'll make a bowl game for sure, but I think that Nebraska's probably just above USC in my opinion and how they're going to fare this season. With it being, in Lincoln, one of the most underrated and disrespected atmospheres in college football. How many consecutive sellouts have they had, right?
If things line up for us, bro, we're going to Memorial State. I got to see a night game there before I die.
I would love to, and I do think that Nebraska wins this game, but a couple of the additions that I want to mention. You brought up Dane Key, but I'd like to bring up 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗶H McCullough, who is a linebacker who spent time at both Indiana and I believe Oklahoma. You bring him in, a very talented player out of high school who is just not quite made it work. I think that's a high upside addition, and someone who I believe we watched in the Cal film, and that's Isaiah Hunter, right?
He's
wide receiver,
fast as hell. Gadget guy, can do everything.
I forget who we were watching them play against. We were looking at some Fernando Mendoza. We were watching Teddy Buchanan on the defense, but Isaiah Hunter stood out as a receiver for California.
I think we were probably watching Jaden Ott that one time.
What was that?
Jaden Ott, I think we were probably watching off the cuff.
Yeah. So now you have Hunter out here with Dane Key in the portal, coming out of the portal. And I really do think that it's clear that Matt Rhule is saying, all right, Dylan, you are much is being expected of you because much is being given to you. And we believe that you will meet the expectations that we have set. And I believe that we'll see this. I think it'll be a pretty good game, maybe a little bit more high scoring. I don't see USC being able to stifle Nebraska defensively, but I do think that I think Nebraska's defense may be a little bit more porous in this game, than they will be the rest of the season. I think because USC's got some solid players on offense. So
yeah,
the way I see it, Nebraska wins, but I think both teams will score over 20, maybe even over 30.
I agree, and What do you think Cortez Mills is going to be this season? Because like I loved him out of high school, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I was able to watch him at the All-American Bowl, and
Oh,
the
that's
dude
right.
is
That's right.
he's a little bit smaller, but the dude is shifty. He's
I think he
to
starts this
me,
year.
right? I think that he could. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field. I'll just put it this way, right?
Yep.
Because look, you brought in both Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter to pair, it's well up with Ja'Cory Barney, but with a guy as dynamic as Cortez Mills, if he's going to carve out a role for himself. And I think that he's going to be a guy who either as the season goes on, he's going to increase his snap count progressively, but certainly the outlook for 2026 is going to be Cortez Mills as a sophomore or redshirt freshman with Dylan Raiola, going into his first draft eligible season. I mean, that's going to be one of the biggest storylines, along with potentially an Isaiah Hunter as well. So the way I see it, Cortez Mills, he has the ability to become, in my opinion, like a great slot guy with how shifty he is.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he's going to be hard to keep off the field. And I do think, though, that 2025, we're going to get simply a taste of what he's capable of. I don't think we'll get the full Cortez Mills experience until 2026. But we're saying it right now. Cortez Mills is absolutely a name to know for Nebraska. He competed with some of the best at the All-American Bowl, and he was certainly a standout. So...
yeah. And I mean, I think Emmett Johnson takes a step up too. In the running game, he's going to need to. Like Dylan Raiola in his second year, you got to help him out. So I don't think he really has a choice in the matter other than to put up or shut up and help your quarterback out. I mean, he had a pretty good year, but it wasn't anything to write home about. You can't run a whole season and only score one touchdown. So, all right, next one up is Northwestern. Did you see the clip that I put in Discord? They're going to have the most expensive and biggest stadium in America. That's crazy. Northwestern. Why? Don't know.
Biggest?
Yeah, it's supposed to be the biggest stadium in college football.
In terms of?
Seating and stature.
It's not seating. They are not. It's not going to have over 100,000 people.
You sure?
I've seen the renderings. I'm pretty sure it doesn't even increase the capacity of Ryan Field. It's supposed to be the nicest for sure, and maybe in terms of actual size of the stadium itself, because I believe that they're trying to combine it with some other facilities. But from what I saw, it's not supposed to even expand the seating from what Ryan Field had originally.
So just stature wise, okay. 450 million is crazy.
Yeah. No, because I've been keeping up with
85.4 thousand is what they are expecting.
So that actually is, I believe, an increase for Ryan Field. I mean, I've been to the old stadium, before they, I believe, demolished it. But it was beautiful out there. I wanted to go to Northwestern as my first school actually in college, but I don't think they stand a chance against USC. I'm sorry. I like the direction they were going in with Pat Fitzgerald before he got fired. I think they didn't have a bad season, in their first year without him, but especially with it being out in LA.
I'm sorry.
I think USC is going to take care of business.
I was looking up Nebraska Stadium on accident. So you are
Gotcha.
right. It's only going to be like, it's not going to, the stadium's going to get bigger and have a better experience.
Yes.
But they're only expecting the final seating capacity to be 47.1 thousand.
Okay. See, so that's closer to what I thought.
Yep. Yeah, it looks nice though. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, I've seen the renderings. It's going to look like an NFL stadium.
Yeah. It's crazy work.
Especially with how close to the lake, all of Evanston and campuses. I mean, it's going to be a scenic location. But unfortunately, right, they're not even playing over there. They're still playing on their soccer and lacrosse field, and they're playing this game in LA. But yeah, Northwestern, I look, I root for them, right? They're kind of like, if I had to choose for a team in the Big Ten, like I like Northwestern, but I think that USC takes care of business.
Yeah, and this one hits close to home because the guy that proved me right his first year at SMU crapped the bed last year and had Kevin Jennings come in. Preston Stone.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, bro. I hit that one on the head the first year, man. And I thought he was gonna be like insane. And he just looked timid last year. I don't know what it was. You had the best team that you've ever played on last year, and you just let Kevin Jennings take them all the way to an ACC championship game. Yeah, I don't understand. This was not a progressive move at all for his career. Unless he just wants to go and get a really good education. I mean, he's going from SMU to Northwestern, so he's very, very smart. But outside of that, there's really no additions to this team that scare USC at this point in time. I think USC comes in and they're tired of losing and are tired of being in close games, and they come in and take an L or get a W against Northwestern. I actually have to fix that. That's not supposed to be an L for Nebraska or a W for Nebraska. It's supposed to be an L for USC. So are we in agreement there that USC comes in and smacks them silly?
Yeah, I think they beat Northwestern handily.
Yeah. This is a makeup game for all the losses that they've experienced at this point in time. All right, so I went ahead and fixed that. To me, and I hope they come in and we do a preview for them, but Iowa, I think, is the most vulnerable team in the Big Ten this year. I don't think that they don't scare me at all whatsoever. I think they will have their worst year under Kirk Ferentz. Bold prediction. They really didn't move a lot. I mean, they got Mark Gronowski from South Dakota State, which we know a lot about Mark Gronowski, which is crazy that a quarterback like him settled on going to a team like that where they're not, unless they're really committed to throwing the ball more than they have in the past, which I highly doubt that. I don't see them. They were 8-4 last year. I don't see the Iowa Hawkeyes getting to 8 wins this year. But I see USC taking a W in the Coliseum against Iowa.
Yeah, I see Iowa as a team who's just lost too many key starters on defense. And, they always field good units, but especially, you don't have that home field advantage. You are a little bit or a good bit into the season, and you're coming off of a difficult game against Oregon as Iowa. I don't see them being able to go into the Coliseum and taking a dub. If they do, it'll be a very close game. But I think that USC takes care of business here, but I don't think it'll be by too large of a margin. I just see Iowa as a very tough and gritty team that's, even if they're not going to be great, they're still going to give you a lot to handle in terms of their defense. But even against against USC's defense, I don't know if I see Iowa moving the ball all too well. So, yeah, I'll rock with USC here, but honestly, I think this matchup might be a stinker just overall.
And it's a shame because, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that like USC comes in here and they mollywop them. I do think that this is a W for USC, and I think we walk away from this game like, by like 13 by the time the game's over. But I think this is a low scoring affair. I think USC probably wins this, like 24, 10, 24, 13, something like that, going into the Oregon game. But the crazy thing about Iowa's teams is they always have really good defenses. And like last year, nobody wanted to give them enough credit for how good they were. No, not last year, the year before. The year before last year, they had like one of the best defenses of all time, like top 5 ever. And nobody talked about that enough. Last year they were really good again, but the rich can't keep getting richer in the NIL era, and 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝘀𝗀𝘀 doesn't utilize the transfer portal like that either. What did he have? Like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Jeremy Hecklinski came over from Wake Forest. Like, I don't to me, I don't understand that from him either. Like, he's a good quarterback. Why did he go to Iowa? I need to go back and research when Jeremy got there versus Mark. Was his like one of those things where he came there and Mark was coming in late? I don't know. I had to look that up. But really, outside of the quarterbacks, they got a Sam Phillips who transferred in from Chattanooga at wide receiver, Jonah Pace, Bryce Hawthorne, Ty Hudkins, and Shaheed Barrows. So really and truly, they had like less than 10 guys that transferred in to their school. So most of these guys that are starters are all guys that have came over from just being at the school from last year. It was his next man up mentality for Iowa. So, I mean, kudos for him developing guys. And we know that they're going to have a good offensive line. We know that they're going to have a pretty decent defense. But everything else, where have they always likely offensive production? That's just it.
Tale as old as time.
Yeah, it sucks for them, but I mean, they really got. If any team got screwed, actually, if 2 teams got screwed out of this whole no divisions thing, it was Wisconsin and Iowa. They got because they were almost a guaranteed shoo-in for being on the west side of the Big Ten and being, the 1 seed coming off of that side, being in the championship game. Them days are long gone, man. You guys got to prepare and at least get an offense or get an offensive coordinator. Like, find somebody like Will Stein that's going to get you guys rolling. I mean, because it would be awesome to practice against their defense. That's crazy too. Not to open up the dialogue about Iowa, but like these offensive guys are practicing against the best of the best defenses in the country year after year after year, and they're so porous on offense. Like, you can't say anything outside of this other than it's coaching and game planning. Like, why are we so porous on offense every year? We practice against the best defense. I don't understand. I have a great offensive line. Updated. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What'd you say?
No, you're good. I think it's just a scheme thing, and frankly, they don't always have the Jimmies and the Joes to get it done. Like, their offensive personnel, like, they'll have good running backs every so often. I mean, Caleb Johnson was a high draft pick, but I think it comes down to offensive personnel. So and scheme.
All right, so we start getting into 2 interesting games to end this year out on. They're feeling pretty good. They got 7 wins on their schedule so far. Can they end? They're guaranteed a bowl game at this point in time. Then they go to Autzen Stadium and play Oregon. To me, this is because I think Oregon's gonna be better than a lot of people give them credit for. Just like every single year, Will Stein's there. Dan Lanning's going to have a better defense this year. I see 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝘀𝗀𝘀 𝗎𝘂𝘀𝘀𝘀 having about 6 sacks in this game. But I think Oregon, I mean, this is the first game where USC actually gets their brakes beat off of them, like, severely. And it's going to suck to see. It's going to suck to see because I'm such a big Eli Sanders and Jayden Mayava fan. But they're really have played some close games up to this point, and this is the one where they truly are just like, we got to take the L on this one and go home and prepare for this is one of those games where you go and prepare for the next team next week for sure. What say you on Oregon?
I I think Oregon's going to take a slight step back. Like I don't think they're going to win the conference.
I don't think so
Um,
either. I still think they're going to
but
be pretty good though.
oh yeah, I mean I think they take care of USC. I mean this is the two teams are familiar with each other from their Pac-12 days.
Mm-hmm.
They do have they do have quite a few players to replace at some key positions, but I like some of the players they're bringing in. Isaiah World from Nevada, big body at tackle, good addition. And I think that Decorian Moore, now that Evan Stewart is out for the year, even more is going to be asked of him. No pun intended. With him being a true freshman,
Man, I hate that happened to him, bro. Oh
yeah,
my god, I was thinking about that the other day. I got sad when I was thinking about that.
Yeah, I really do think that Oregon's gonna, they're gonna have no problem here with USC, but Oregon's they could have some growing pains at some point throughout the season. I think you'll see that against Penn State on the road. I think you'll see that against Indiana, maybe even against Washington on the road to end the season. But I think they beat USC pretty handily here. So,
and then the last one is UCLA. You know, the old rivalry, as old as time at this point. 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗶𝗲𝘀𝗀 steps in what has been, I think they're going to have such an up and down season. They were 5-7 last year. To me, I think they're 5-6 up to this point, looking to make a bowl game. I had to look at their schedule again, but I don't think Nico makes them better. Than they've got a lot of problems that they need to deal with. So I don't know, man. I think this is a close game. I really do. But I still think USC squeaks this out. I think they have the just better players all the way around. What say you, sir?
oh, this is a tough one. Kind of a classic rivalry here.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to lean towards USC, but I see this kind of as being a coin flip. I don't think that either team's gonna be great. I certainly don't think USC or UCLA will be, but I think that USC should be able to, to beat UCLA here. But again, I like you. I'm not the highest on Nico. I recognize the talent that he possesses, and I think he still needs to tap into that and grow. But I just don't feel comfortable, picking UCLA in a fierce rivalry like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think USC wins. I can see it going both ways again, but I
do
think
too.
they win.
I do too. Well, they do. Hold up now. They do have Jalen Berger.
No,
going 3 for 3.
3 for 3.
And
he's probably the main reason why I think that UCLA does have a chance. But no, I can't get myself to go with UCLA here. I just don't think they're going to be great this season.
Yep. They do have Henry Hasselbeck though. Waiting there in the wings.
Change the vote. Undefeated for UCLA.
Well, there it is. We had the USC Trojans making a bowl game. And then there's
7-5 is not bad.
And then there's season 7-5. It's, I mean, the question is.
Wait, UCLA should be a win.
Oh, wait. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, so it should be 8-4. I was just counting the L's. I didn't even catch that.
Yep.
8-4. I mean, that's good season.
But is Lincoln Riley's job on the line? That's the question.
No, because I think if you fire Lincoln Riley, you're essentially firing half of your offense. I think that Jaden Mayava and Hussein Longstreet, they're talented, true freshmen with a very strong arm. I think they both leave. Some of those receivers, I think they're gone. I have a hard time seeing some of those guys on the offensive side sticking around.
Yeah. I think this is another year where a lot of USC fans are coping with the fact that they need an offensive coordinator that's actually good.
Yeah.
And scapegoating Lincoln Riley yet again. I mean, I just don't know. Like, I just don't know what they need to be successful, man. And it's always been like, even when I was growing up, USC was one of those teams where they were so well balanced on offense and defense, and that's the reason why they were always in championship games. Yeah, did they have great weapons like Troy Polamalu and Ray Mo, what's his name? Ray Monaluga and Reggie Bush and Carson Palmer's of the world and all those guys, and always had great receivers, which they still do. I mean, Mekhi Lemon is probably going to be really, really good this year. If everybody thinks he's going to be the next Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm kind of on that train too. But still, their defense is obviously the weak spot. Bear Alexander leaving is a bigger blow than what they actually realize. Well, that USC won't fire him because he spent all that money on him too.
Yeah, I don't think that Lincoln Riley is the answer. I'll say that. I mean, look,
it was a good hire. I'm in the boat to say that it was a good hire at the time.
I mean, it certainly got a lot of hype around the program, but
Brought him a Heisman winner.
Yes, it hasn't. Yeah, right, but I mean, what did that Heisman turn into? They lost to Tulane that year in the Cotton Bowl.